The quiet before the final walk. If you're drawn to the darkest corners of the justice system, hit subscribe, leave a comment, and stay with this story, because once you step inside death row, there's no turning back. The sirens were already fading when they found the body. It was just after midnight outside a shuttered rest stop along Interstate 40, the kind of place truckers used to crowd before it went dark for good. A maintenance worker noticed the security light swinging, creaking in the wind. Beneath it lay a man face down in the gravel, shoes neatly placed beside him, wallet still in his pocket. No sign of a struggle. No witnesses. Just a single gunshot wound, precise and clean. Detective Aaron Cole arrived as the sky began to pale. 20 years on the job had taught him that the quietest scenes were usually the loudest liars. The victim was identified within the hour, Daniel Mercer, 42, a civil engineer with no criminal record, no known enemies, and a wife who swore he'd left home to buy milk and never came back. The first question wasn't who killed Daniel Mercer. It was why. Security footage showed Mercer pulling into the lot alone. 10 minutes later, another vehicle arrived, headlights off. The camera glitched just as the driver stepped out. When the feed returned, Mercer was already on the ground. The car rolled away slowly, unhurried, as if the driver knew no one would stop them. Cole felt it in his gut. This wasn't random. This was deliberate. As the investigation unfolded, pieces didn't fit. Mercer's phone had been wiped clean hours before his death. His work laptop, found at home, contained encrypted files he couldn't explain. And then there was the letter, postmarked 3 days earlier, found unopened on his kitchen counter. No return address. Just 3 words written in block letters, "It's almost time." While local media ran headlines about a mysterious highway murder, Cole's attention shifted to something older, buried deeper. Daniel Mercer had been consulting, quietly, on a federal review board, one tasked with auditing death row cases across several states. Appeals. Evidence handling. Wrongful convictions. The kind of work that made powerful enemies and invisible ones. Cole requested the files. Half were missing. He flew to Arizona to meet Dr. Lena Harris, a forensic psychologist assigned to evaluate death row inmates nearing execution. She didn't look surprised when he mentioned Mercer's name. "He asked questions no one likes," she said, her voice low. "About isolation. About what prolonged confinement does to the mind. About cases that shouldn't still be here." Death row, she explained, wasn't a single corridor or a final chair. It was a limbo measured in decades. Cells the size of bathrooms. 23 hours a day alone. Meals slid through slots. Voices heard but rarely seen. Some inmates stopped marking time altogether. Others counted every breath. One of them mentioned Mercer, Harris added. Said he promised to make things right. That name sat heavy between them. Isaiah Reed. Reed had been on death row for 19 years, convicted of a triple homicide that shocked a small Ohio town in the late 90s. The evidence had seemed airtight. A confession. Ballistics. A jury that deliberated less than 4 hours. His execution date was 6 weeks away. Cole reviewed the case that night in his hotel room. Something was off. Witness statements changed. Evidence logs didn't match. And Mercer's name appeared in the margins of an internal memo, circled in red. Back in Ohio, Cole visited the prison. Death row was colder than he expected, quieter too. The kind of silence that pressed in on your ears. Guards moved inmates like fragile cargo, every step controlled, every door sealed behind them. Reed looked older than his file photo. Thinner. Calmer. "You hear about Mercer?" Reed asked before Cole could speak. "They always come too late." "What do you mean?" Cole said. Reed leaned closer to the glass. "He found it. The thing they buried. And now he's dead." Cole felt the floor shift beneath him. What did he find? Reed's eyes didn't blink. The proof. 2 days later, a sealed storage unit linked to Daniel Mercer was opened under court order. Inside were boxes of documents, a burner phone, and a single flash drive labeled in black marker. Final walk. When investigators accessed the files, they realized the truth wasn't just about one man on death row. It was about all of them. Time is the weapon. The flash drive didn't scream corruption at first glance. It whispered it. Detective Aaron Cole sat in a dim evidence room, scrolling through files stamped with court seals, execution dates, and internal memos never meant to leave prison walls. Some documents showed altered timestamps. Others revealed evidence transfers logged days after juries had already reached verdicts. In at least 3 cases, key forensic reports were quietly replaced during the appeals process. The changes all pointed in one direction, making sure executions moved forward no matter the cost. And every altered file carried the same initials in the metadata, Arch. Cole traced them to Richard Halvorson, a senior corrections administrator who'd spent decades overseeing death row logistics across multiple states. Halvorson was praised publicly as a model of efficiency. Privately, he controlled everything from inmate movement to evidence storage. If someone wanted a case to stay buried, Halvorson was the man who made sure it stayed that way. Before Cole could request a warrant, the burner phone from Mercer's storage unit buzzed to life. One message. No sender ID. Stop digging, or you'll join him. That night, the phone rang again. This time, there was breathing on the other end, slow, deliberate, before the line went dead. Cole increased security around Mercer's widow, Emily, but she was already unraveling. She admitted Daniel had been distant for months, waking in the night, whispering about men who watched him from parked cars. He'd told her, "If anything happens to me, it won't be random." The pressure was building not just outside the prison walls, but inside them too. On death row, Isaiah Reed felt the shift before anyone said a word. Guards stopped meeting his eyes. Meals arrived late. His recreation hour was cut without explanation. The silence inside the cell block thickened, broken only by the occasional scream from someone who had lost track of what year it was. Reed knew the pattern. When the system felt threatened, it closed ranks. Dr. Lena Harris noticed it too. Her access to inmates was suddenly under review. Files she'd requested were marked restricted. When she pushed back, a supervisor pulled her aside and warned her to stay in her lane. "These men are already condemned," he said. "Why stir the water now?" Because, she thought, some of them shouldn't be. Harris met with Reed anyway, slipping past protocol under the guise of a final evaluation. Reed's hands shook as he spoke, not with fear, but anger sharpened by years of waiting. "Mercer told me the truth wouldn't save me," Reed said, "but it might stop them from killing someone else." He described a night years earlier when guards moved him unexpectedly, claiming a security drill. He'd seen Halvorson himself supervising as boxes were removed from evidence storage. Boxes labeled with his case number. At the time, Reed thought it didn't matter. He was already sentenced. Now he understood. Evidence wasn't just disappearing. It was being curated. Cole's request for Halvorson's records was denied within hours. Then something worse happened. A junior analyst working the flash drive data was found unconscious in a parking garage, skull fractured, laptop missing. The attack wasn't fatal, but the message was unmistakable. Someone was cleaning house. Cole went rogue. He leaked select documents to an independent journalist known for exposing judicial misconduct. Within 48 hours, whispers turned into headlines. Death row evidence tampering? Cable news lit up. Officials issued calm denials. Halvorson went on administrative leave, smiling for cameras as if nothing touched him. But inside the prison, retaliation came fast. Isaiah Reed's execution date was moved up. No explanation. No hearing. When Harris confronted the warden, she was escorted out and informed her contract was terminated effective immediately. That night, Cole received one final file from the journalist. A prison surveillance clip time-stamped nearly 20 years earlier. Grainy. It showed Daniel Mercer, younger, nervous, standing outside a courtroom hallway, speaking to a man just out of frame. The man stepped into view. It was Richard Halvorson. And in his hand was a sealed evidence envelope marked with Isaiah Reed's name. Cole realized then that Mercer hadn't just been investigating death row. He'd been part of it from the very beginning. And whatever Mercer had finally tried to undo was now racing toward its final walk. The execution clock never stops. It only gets louder. 3 days before Isaiah Reed was scheduled to die, Detective Aaron Cole stood outside the Ohio State Penitentiary watching the lights burn through the night. Inside those walls, time had become a weapon, used to exhaust, isolate, and erase. Reed had survived 19 years of it. Now the system was closing in, faster than ever. Cole's last hope rested on what Daniel Mercer had hidden deeper than the flash drive. The journalist called just before dawn. "There's another storage unit," she said. "Different name. Different state. Same handwriting." Inside it was a single banker's box and a recorder sealed in evidence tape. The box held sworn affidavits from former prison staff, guards, evidence clerks, even a retired judge, all pointing to one truth. Richard Halvorsen hadn't just manipulated evidence. He'd built a pipeline that kept death row full. Cases with doubts were quietly reinforced. Appeals were delayed until witnesses died or memories faded. Time did the rest. The recorder contained Mercer's final confession. His voice was steady but haunted. He admitted that early in his career, he'd flagged irregularities in Reed's case, and then helped suppress them. Promotions followed. Access followed. Guilt came later. "I thought efficiency was justice," Mercer said. "I was wrong. And now people are going to die because I waited too long to speak." Cole rushed the material to the court. Emergency motions were filed. Protesters gathered outside the prison gates. Cameras rolled as officials insisted the system worked exactly as intended. Then the unthinkable happened. The judge denied the stay. No explanation. Just a signature. Inside death row, Isaiah Reed was informed at sunset. He didn't react. He'd already lived his ending 1,000 times. Dr. Lena Harris, reinstated temporarily under public pressure, was allowed one final visit. She asked Reed if he was afraid. "No," he said. "I'm angry. There's a difference." As midnight approached, the prison shifted into execution mode. Corridors cleared. Phones rang. Witnesses were escorted into place. Somewhere deep in the facility, a gurney waited under harsh white light. And then, 15 minutes before the final walk, everything stopped. A federal injunction came through, filed directly by the Department of Justice. Richard Halvorsen had been arrested at his home while attempting to board a private flight. In his safe, agents found original evidence envelopes tied to multiple death row cases, including Isaiah Reed's. Untouched. Unaltered. Proof they had been replaced years earlier. The execution was halted. Reed was returned to his cell as guards avoided his eyes once more, this time with something close to shame. In the weeks that followed, the fallout was seismic. Executions were paused across 3 states. Cases reopened. Families learned the truth far too late. Some inmates were exonerated. Others died before their names could be cleared. Isaiah Reed's conviction was overturned. He walked out of prison a free man at 62, stepping into a world that had moved on without him. Cameras flashed. Microphones crowded close. "What do you want now?" a reporter asked. Reed looked past them toward the sky. "Time," he said. "And for people to understand what it costs." Richard Halvorsen died in custody 6 months later, officially of natural causes. The investigation into his network quietly narrowed. Names disappeared from reports. Files were sealed again. And Daniel Mercer? His name never made the headlines. But on death row, long after the cells were emptied and the lights dimmed, guards still talk about the man who waited too long, and the truth that almost didn't survive its final walk. Because in America's toughest prisons, the punishment isn't death. It's time.